Hello, in this week's Footy Talk I'm going to explain the different parts of a football pitch. So I'm going to give you the names of the different lines in English and maybe different areas of the pitch that can help you talk about football. Let's do this. In the centre of the pitch is the centre spot where you kick off, and this is called the centre circle. Sometimes a player can score before the centre circle. Xabi Alonso, do you remember him? I think he scored from around here and also maybe from around here.
And Zogbia, no gap to go through. Xabi Alonso closes it, and he's gone for it, and Harper slipped. Would you believe it? Xabi Alonso!
On the side of the pitch we have the touchline. Do you remember when Mourinho ran down the touchline?
It will be Benny McCarthy. Howard saved, but Costina's turned it home! And Porto have done it! Well, even Jose Mourinho is joining in the celebrations. Manchester United are heading out.
At the end of the pitch, this line and this line is sometimes called the byline. So if you are a winger or a right midfielder or a left midfielder, you might get to the byline and cross it in or pull it back. Okay, so these areas, this area is called the penalty area or the penalty box. Or sometimes when it is near the end of the game, you might call it the mixer. And somebody can shout in English, just get it in the mixer. Also, in the penalty area, we have the 6-yard box. And a yard is just short of a metre. So, a yard is 3 foot, and a metre is 3 foot 3 inches. Maybe you don't know what that means, but that's what we call it. We call it the 6-yard box. And Gary Lineker, do you remember him? He scored maybe 90% of his goals from inside the 6-yard box. Okay, just on the outside of the penalty area is what we call the D. It's a semicircle, and it's not a full semicircle, it's like a semicircle. So maybe a dangerous free kick position is on the edge of the D. The edge of the D, or on the edge of the penalty box. And sometimes we describe this area as like a territory. And if somebody is good at free kicks, you might say this free kick is in David Beckham territory.
Everybody, bar the Greek supporters, praying for a goal. Beckham to take. The 93rd minute at Old Trafford. Beckham! And England may still be going to the World Cup automatically.
But also maybe the Brazilian player JUNINHO, maybe his territory was around here.
Coup franc de JUNINHO et but!
Okay, if you are a striker, it's important to run the channels. So the channels at the side of the pitch, maybe here and maybe here. And this is where you should run to try and get the ball. Jamie Vardy is very good at this.
Run.
Also, maybe if you are a striker or an attacking midfielder, you need to find pockets. Or you need to find the pockets, or you need to find a pocket of space. And this is sometimes called the hole. So the hole is maybe just before the last line of defense in this area here. So this is if sometimes a player plays in the hole. Or they try to find pockets of space in between the midfield and the defense here. Also, strikers need to drift out wide. So they need to drift out wide. Or they sometimes play on the flanks. So the flanks is on the wing or on the side, and this is another military term. So the flanks means the sides, and maybe in the military you can attack from the flanks. Like the centre spot, we also have the penalty spot. And sometimes a player may sabotage the penalty spot before a penalty kick.
Well, just watch what Hitz is doing here. He's just trying to kick up the ground a little bit by that penalty spot. Hitz makes the save. It stays 0-0.
In the goal area, we have the goal line. So before Hawkeye, before technology, some goals were scored that maybe were not over the goal line, and maybe some goals were given that were before the goal line. Another military term that is sometimes used in football is no man's land. So no man's land is if a player is standing in the wrong position. Usually you can say, why are you standing in no man's land? And no man's land comes from wars or the military, which is the land that is between two sides who are fighting each other. In football, it's used to describe a player who is in the wrong position, really, who is marking nobody. They are in no man's land. Another cliche or phrase that comes from cricket actually is the corridor of uncertainty. So the corridor of uncertainty is the area between the goalkeeper and the last line of defence. So it's uncertain because the goalkeeper doesn't know whether to come to collect the ball and the defender doesn't know what to do. So if you can cross the ball in that area, this is called the corridor of uncertainty. On the side of the pitch where the substitutes sit is called the dugout. Okay, so the dugout is where the substitutes sit and maybe the manager, but sometimes the manager steps out and now they have a technical area. Another area that is close to the dugout is the tunnel. So players line up in the tunnel before they come out onto the pitch. So before we divided the pitch into half, so this is maybe your half and the other team's half, but also we talk about a football pitch in thirds, so another fraction. And it is important to be clinical or to be good in the final third. So the final third is close to the goal. Another important area of the pitch is called the golden square. And this comes from a piece of research that was conducted about 20 years ago. And they split the pitch into 18 zones. And they discovered that zone 14, which is here, was the most important part of the pitch. And when a player is in that position, he needs to make the correct decision to score a goal. Most goals come from the golden square or zone 14. Okay, thank you for watching. Maybe I have missed some parts of the pitch. Maybe you can think of some different parts that I did not say. How do you say these areas in your language? Please like and subscribe. See you in the next video.